Reading with your kids.
Hey, 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 so great to see you. Come on in. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We're coming to you from the oh-so-beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are delighted and so very grateful that you're part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. Thank you for helping us to help families grow closer together through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you find your podcast. Our guests today are Tiffany Caldwell and her dad, W.R. MacKenzie. They're here to celebrate the Adventures of Forkman. Before we invite Tiffany and her dad into the studio, we want to invite you to go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Parents Click Here button, then scroll on down to live events, because we want to let you know all about my amazing live, in-person, or virtual educational magic show. It's called The Magic Between Us is Respect and Kindness. I love this show, and I love presenting it. I'm really surprised. I love presenting it virtually. I would so much prefer to be in person, to be able to shake hands. I used to go out and shake hands like every single kid in the audience, 600-700 handshakes at one time. I don't think I'm going to be doing that in the near future, but I absolutely can entertain and inspire your kids, the kids in your community, through the magic of technology by presenting my show virtually. And I'd love to do it. And I would love for you to go to my website, readingwithyourkids.com, and check out our live events page. I know chances are you're not the person who is scheduling live events at your kid's school, but you know who those people are. Your child's teacher, your child's principal, the guidance counselor, the librarian. You also know how busy they are teaching virtually or hybrid, keeping things sanitized, keeping your kids safe. So they would really appreciate it if you could bring them this information, because you know, kids have been looking at screens, at their teachers. I'm hearing this all the time. The kids need something different. And boy, oh boy, the magic between us is respect and kindness. That's different. You're going to love it. Your kids are going to love it. And the people at your school, the principal, the teachers, the librarians, they're going to love you for bringing it to their attention. Check it out today, please. Readingwithyourkids.com. Click on Parents Click Here. Scroll on down to live events to find out all about the magic between us is respect and kindness. Joining us right now from the great states of Texas and Florida, we have a father-daughter team on right now to celebrate the Adventures of Forkman. Please welcome to the show Tiffany Caldwell and W.R. MacKenzie. Tiffany, Bill, how are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Fantastic and warm.
Yes.
We were just talking about the fact that I am here in beautiful Reedville, where there's 1.5 feet of snow that recently fell. Tiffany is in Texas. Bill is in Florida. And I'm cold. But anyways, we're here to celebrate the Adventures of Forkman. And as I understand it, Tiffany was kind of the driving force behind getting this book written anyways. Tiffany, can you introduce us to who Forkman is?
Forkman is a table character that my dad came up with when we were kids. We would sit at the table, and when we weren't doing what we were supposed to be doing, he would say, Forkman says to do this, or Forkman says to do that. And he just came up with all these characters, and as the years went on, we all grew up, and probably 2010, I had my first child, and we were sitting there talking to each other, and we started this with my son too. And we were like, man, now's the great time to write a story about this. So we did. We wrote 6 stories, and we're really excited with how this has all progressed.
Now, Bill, as you were saying, Forkman wants to say this, and you said it with a nice, jolly, friendly tone, because I can imagine, and you told me before you lived in New York, you could say Forkman wants you to do this and have a completely different connotation.
Well, and actually, this started when I was a kid. My father would, if I had my elbow on the table, my father would take the butt end of a knife and he'd go, pop, and pop my elbow. So get your elbows off the table. What's the matter with you? And her and her sister, Brittany, I couldn't do that to them. I couldn't, bang their elbows. So that's why I picked up the fork. And I said, Forkman says, get your elbows off the table. Forkman says, don't burp. Forkman says, don't do this. So it was just a game. It was just something where they would giggle and laugh, but they learned from it. And, they've taken etiquette classes when they were young, through my mother and father. And it was just something that we played with until I was, working in the bakery business, like I was talking earlier, and finally she came up to me in 2010 and said, Dad, we need to write a book about Forkman. And I kind of laughed at her. I said, what are you crazy? What do you mean write a book? I'm not an author. I'm a baker. And we decided let's do it. And it's been like a labor of love between us to try and get this thing done. And the second book is now, this is how we're coming to you on the podcast. The second book is coming out January 5th. And this one is about loading a dishwasher and the noises you're not supposed to make at the table. And that's why it's named What's That Noise?
Wow. Tiffany, this obviously was a great memory of your childhood, and you're passing it on to your kids. Talk about that. Talk about when you first met Forkman and he was telling you to get your elbows off the table and reminding you not to make noises at the table. Just talk about those memories a little bit, please.
It continued through our entire lives. And it just started out as something funny. We would just laugh and we'd be like, okay, Dad, we'll do that, and we didn't realize then that it was going to become a constant at our table. Something that started out as so simple became every dinner. We were like, well, where's Forkman? What would Forkman want us to do? And it's really cool that it has now been passed down to my kids, and we do that at our table as well.
Yeah. Bill, why we don't hear about kids taking etiquette classes a lot these days. Why was that important to you?
Well, it was, you're going back into I'm dating myself, the 60s and 70s, actually back to, it starts with the 50s. It was just something that my mother and father thought, if you're going to sit at the table, you're going to act properly. And it's something that I believe in this day and age that we're lacking a little bit. A lot of people don't eat at the table anymore. A lot of people, they eat in front of the TV, which I do too. I mean, everybody does it. But the kids aren't getting that they're not getting taught where the fork goes and how the napkin is supposed to be folded and what side of the table it's supposed to be on. And it's just something that we just feel strongly about, that, the kids need to know this. Kids need to see it again. And maybe someday when they walk into a restaurant, they'll know that the fork needs to go here and the knife needs to go here and it needs to point in. It's just things that are missing. It's almost like cursive. We're not teaching kids how to write cursive anymore. Mm-hmm. And maybe Forkman can actually do that in another book, and get his buddy the pencil out and teach him how to write cursive. Yeah. Who knows?
It's interesting. It's true. There's a lot of traditions and things that were a staple that have gone by the wayside. You mentioned cursive. Bill, we are peers. I may actually be older than you, but I was actually part of the first wave of kids who didn't learn cursive writing until I went to a traditional Jesuit high school. And talk about embarrassed. I had a teacher who wouldn't accept a composition that was not written in cursive. And at 16 years old, I had to learn how to write cursive because we weren't taught that in the public school that I had attended. Tiffany, you are carrying this tradition on. Why is it important for you? Because you're much younger than Bill and I. Why is it important for you, for your kids, to have that sense of manners and etiquette?
I think it's important. I've worked with kids for 14 years. My goal in life was always to become a teacher, and I have since taken a different path, but, was working with kids for so long and having kids of my own. I know how I was raised, and I know how important our family meals were. I know how important it was to act right at the table, and we always worked together to clean the kitchen, which is what our books are about too. And it's just important to bring that back. I want my kids to see a loving family, even after a hard day, that we can all still sit down for a couple minutes without devices and share time together.
I think that is the thing that is so lacking in so many families because everybody's going in 12 different directions. And I mean, there are some kids, their schedule looks, like busier than, the CEO of a major company. They're going to this practice and that practice and after school programs and dance recitals and everybody is go, go, go. And we forget to sit down and just spend that half an hour, 45 minutes of eating and talking together. Bill, talk a little bit about why you think that's so important to spend that time together and to make that a priority, that family time a priority above everything else.
Well, and again, in the book itself, in the second book here, we actually put the phones down. People are paying so much attention to technology, and they're not communicating. People aren't communicating when they all get home. And so this happened years ago. I was coming back from a business trip, and I think Tiffany picked me up at the airport, and we all came into, this is when she was older, we all came into the house. And as soon as I sat down, as soon as I walked in, she was on her phone, her sister was on her phone, William was playing video games, my wife at the time was everybody's on their phones. It was like they're all going like this. and people are doing that now. They sit down, and in the book we state, put the phones in the middle of the table. No electronics, and just talk. I remember them telling me, well, I'll just send it to you in a text. And I said, I'll never text. Well, here I am. I'm texting the whole world. I got so many texts, I don't even know which ones to delete anymore. and she's laughing because it's true. I mean, we're all just with our hands, our faces in our phones, and we're not talking to each other. And that's part of what we're trying to get across here is that just, even if it's just for a half hour at dinner, okay? Everybody just talk about their day. One of the things we do now is that we actually go around the table at dinner. When we sit at the table, we go around the table. Phones are in the middle of the table, and we talk to each other and say, how was your day today? What did you learn in school? What did you do here? And you get to know the people that you're living with. And that's part of the reason why we're doing this. It's a kid superhero that actually is not doing something silly. It's actually teaching them something. It's teaching them where the fork goes. It's teaching them where to put the glass. It's teaching them how not to make noises at the table. People do it all the time.
Yeah. Tiffany, you mentioned that you had a goal of becoming a teacher at one time. I present educational magic shows around the country, and for the past 20 years, the show that was the most popular by far, 90% of the schools always wanted me to come in and talk to kids about bullying and about the fact that it's not right to be bullied. It's important to include everyone. And I'd have a lot of fun going in there and getting kids excited about it. But I got a chance to see the ongoing programs and what ongoing programs different schools were using. The most effective one that I saw was not based on, never used the word bully. It was all based on manners. It was called R Time, the letter R Time. And it was all about spending 10 minutes each day with the kids paired up, speaking to each other, using ultra manners, like, Tiffany, it's so nice to see you. Thank you for sitting down and speaking with me today. Well, thank you, Jed. It's a pleasure. And just doing that 10-minute practice, and what schools were finding is those 10 minutes where kids were using hyper good manners spilled over to the rest of the day, and they didn't have issues with bullying because everybody was just being kind and polite with each other.
That's interesting.
It really was. It was fascinating. Tell me, Tiffany, how are your kids reacting to these lessons in etiquette?
They love it, and we have their cousins come over, and we'll read together. We actually my daughter hosted a tea party for her cousins, and she sent out little invitations, and when they came over, she had the whole table set. She did it herself, followed in the book, because there's pictures, how to do everything, and she greeted them, brought them in, they sat down, they enjoyed each other's company, and they followed the instructions in the book on how to be kind. And they were actually nicer throughout the rest of their time together here, where sometimes they're not.
And to tag on to that, children, they learn at such a, everything is at such a young age. And I read to Tiffany, I read to William, I read to Catherine, I read to Brittany when they were little. And, they remember those books. Mm-hmm. And they remember how the books went. They remember the details of the books. And with this, if we can teach kids at that age, 3 to 8 years old, that, again, the fork goes here, the glass goes there, don't put this, this is how you load the dishwasher, this is how you wipe the table off. If moms and dads can read that to them, it can instill this at an early age, and maybe they'll be nicer, because our third book that's coming out is going to be called Please and Thank You. I mean, what a concept, to say please and thank you. You don't hear that a lot. You hear the kids, saying, I want this and I want that. No, well, maybe you should say, please, can I have some ice cream? Mm-hmm. Or may I have some ice cream? Mm-hmm. And it's the simple things, just going back to some basics. That's all.
Simple ideas that are effective.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I receive emails from authors wanting to be on the show saying, hey, this is a great book, you should have me on my show. And I think to myself, gee, there's a word that you could have used somewhere in that email that would have caught my attention.
Please.
Hey, Tiffany, one of the things that struck me is Bill was talking about reading to you and your siblings at a young age, and how you guys remember that, and he remembers that. That's the mission of our show, is to inspire families to grow closer together by reading more. And we talk about all the different benefits, the vocabulary, learning how to read, and gaining empathy. But the benefit that I really like to celebrate is what you are demonstrating here today, that bond that grows between parent and child as they're reading together. Here it is. I'm looking at you, Tiffany, so probably you were on your dad's lap maybe 15 years ago.
Longer.
Or more. But the point is that you spent that time together, and years later you decided, hey, Dad, I want to write a book with you. Mm-hmm. And part of that was probably because you thought, well, this is an important message, but I'm guessing also part of it is like, this is a cool way to continue to do something with the guy that I love.
Yeah, absolutely. I tried anything I could to spend time with Dad. I mowed the lawn with him. I worked on the cars with him. I was always wanting to spend time with Dad. And my mom, too. My mom read with us often. And those are the things that I want to do with my kids. And I've noticed lately that I have let life get too busy, and we're too caught up in where are we going next and what are we doing. And we've had to dial it back down. I have a 2-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 12-year-old. And we now take the time with the 2-year-old. We read, me and my husband, together with her every night. And then we're alternating with the older kids, reading books with them. But my second grader, she was falling behind on reading because we weren't making that a priority. And when I used to work in a preschool here in town, I had 3-year-olds reading. We pushed reading so much because we knew how important it was. And so that's really one of our goals too, is to have a book that is fun and educational, but also, hey, I want to read that book again and I want to spend that time with you to read.
Yeah, beautiful. My hat's off to you, Bill and Tiffany. Tiffany, especially we talk about how important it is to continue reading with our kids as they become independent readers. And so I'm really happy to hear that you're reading still with your 12-year-old. That's fantastic. Bill, one of the things I'm wondering, because I had a similar experience with you. My daughter would go out, and she was the one who wanted to throw the football around, when she was younger, and we did all sorts of stuff together. And now she is here helping with the podcast during the pandemic, and we're doing great things together. What was that like, writing a book together with your daughter? How was that experience?
Well, when she asked me, and I told you earlier, I kind of blew it off because I was still, working in the bakery business. When she asked me, I started thinking about it, and then I said, okay, let's do that. And I actually put a copyright together with the Library of Congress. We sat down and we started thinking, well, how should we make this look? Looking at it as it's going towards children, little kids. And we sat down, we put the first basically chapter together, and then she put the second chapter together. And one morning, I don't know, I was up working on the computer, and I sat there and wrote the last 3 in about 5 hours. I just sat there and wrote all that, and then she said, I like it, and then she took it and she wrote more into it, and we just kind of went back and forth and emailed it, put it into a PowerPoint presentation, and I put where the picture should go. I drew out the original pictures. I still have those drawings in Cocoa Beach, where I put the fork and put the smiles on him. Knife guy had kind of the grimace, and Spoon Dude was the California Surfer dude, and I put all these characters together, and then she added, okay, and then we have Clara the Cup, and it just kind of morphed into something. We just kept going back and forth on email and on the phone. And then, of course, they got me into the iPhone, so then we started FaceTiming, and it ballooned into, here we are.
That's wonderful. I love this. Families continuing to do stuff together after all these years. So very important. Such a great role model. Tiffany, I'm wondering where folks can go online to connect better with you and your dad and learn more about the Adventures of Forkman.
We have a website, forkman5.com, and we also have Facebook, Instagram, figuring out Twitter. But you can contact us through any of the social media outlets, and it's all under the Adventures of Forkman.
Awesome. And so, Bill, you said book number 3 is in the works.
It's already written.
It's already written. We just want to get these 2 going first, so we can get the third one going. Awesome. I actually have in my head all sorts of other ideas where Forkman can introduce, all sorts of other characters in the house.
Awesome. We really, really want to encourage folks to get to know Forkman and all of his friends, and bring a little bit more manners, more etiquette, and more family time together. We've had a great time speaking to the authors of The Adventures of Forkman, W.R. MacKenzie and Tiffany Caldwell. Tiffany, Bill, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Mifflin Lowe. He'll be here to celebrate The Cuddle Book, a fantastic new book coming to you from our friends at Familius Publishing. Hey, if you're the author of a great children's book, we would love to have you as a guest on the podcast. Being a guest, it's fun, it's easy, it doesn't cost you a thing, and it gives you the chance to tell thousands of people about your fantastic children's book. All you need to do is go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com, click on the author's Click Here button at the top of the page, scroll on down to be a guest. We'd love to hear from you. Check it out today, readingwithyourkids.com. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so very wonderful. Of course, want to thank our guest, W.R. MacKenzie, and his daughter, Tiffany Caldwell. Be sure to check out The Adventures of Forkman. Also want to thank my team, Alejandro Doherty, Fatima Khan. I want to thank my amazing interns, Alexia Brown, Hannah Pat Oboyski. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. I want to thank you. Thank you so very much for taking the time to join us today, and as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.